What's up, YouTube? Today I wanted to talk about a story that was brought up over the weekend on Bill Maher's show, and it was the topic of the Christian genocide in Nigeria.
Nigeria, the fact that this issue has not gotten on people's radar.
Right, no one's talking about it.
It's pretty amazing. If you don't know what's going on in Nigeria, your media sources suck. You are in a bubble. And again, I'm not a Christian, but they are systematically killing the Christians in Nigeria. They've killed over 100,000 since 2009. They've burned 18,000 churches. This is so much more. These are their Islamists, Boko Haram. This is so much more of a genocide attempt than what is going on in Gaza. They are literally attempting to wipe out the Christian population of an entire country. Where are the kids protesting this?
Let me Google. And I did look this up earlier, just for full disclosure, to kind of get like a preview of what was going on. But overall, it doesn't seem like this topic was really talked about until this weekend. It looks like ever since Bill Maher even started discussing it, there wasn't really any history. Bill Maher claims slaughter of Christians in Nigeria being ignored because the Jews aren't involved, and that was on Fox News one day ago. So that's obviously Bill Maher's theory as far as like why this hasn't been a breaking story. Okay, so now that we've looked and seen what the news is, I mean, pretty much Fox News, I would say, or like Newsweek are really the main ones that are even talking about it. And I think this story with the Christian genocide is another example of how mainstream media's lack of coverage is also going to do damage in some way, because fundamentally, number one, the news's job is to investigate these stories. So the fact that Bill Maher is talking about it, and there hasn't even been, from what I can tell, like an investigation besides a day ago, is a sign that they are completely ignoring the story. And why would they be ignoring the story? For one, I think the fact that it is about Christians is not a narrative that mainstream media would like to cover. Going off of Bill Maher's point where this doesn't involve Israel or the Jewish people, I think that's a fair claim, but I don't think that's the full story. I think another part of this is because at least liberal news stations have no incentive to cover this story because they're set out to make conservatives look like the enemy at this point. So I don't think like CNN, MSNBC, any of those left-leaning news stations have a real incentive to cover this, because then they would be painting their perceived enemy in a positive light, thus gaining sympathy for them. And it's actually kind of shocking that Fox News was not covering this either until Bill Maher started talking about it. To me, you would think that, they'd be the ones to kind of be upfront about it and bring up this topic in general. And I think, again, it highlights the nature of what they're willing to put in front of us does not always serve the interest of informing us. It's for a reason. It's to gain support and to have like a cause and effect in the world. And I think just by that main point, I think it's easy to see that their lack of coverage in one thing is also because of the nature of not having an effect. So they don't want anything to happen with this, and that's why they're not covering it. And that, again, piggybacks off of Bill Maher's point where this has nothing to do with the Jews or and I'm assuming he's talking about like the Israel-Palestine conflict. It's because they don't want anything to conflict with that story, and that's a possibility for why they're not covering this narrative, because then it will pull attention away from their bread and butter at this point. Another possible reason why this isn't being covered is because it seems like Christians and the Christian religion in general is not seen as a religion to be taken seriously. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is that if you look across social media or even the internet for like the last few years, it has kind of been open season, poking at the criticisms with Christianity. But let's say you bring up like the Muslim religion or even like the Jewish religion. Like most other religions, you're not really able to criticize them in public. I mean, even South Park pulled that episode off the air where they were making fun of the Prophet Muhammad, but then on the flip side, they have numerous episodes with like Jesus in it and making fun of Jesus. And overall, I think if you look at the news and its ability to enact change in certain ways, I mean, look at how the exposure of like the genocide in Gaza has resulted in all of these other countries, or even here domestically in the US. It's gained tremendous support for Palestine in general because of their coverage and the exposure of the things that Israel was doing. Like they were very quick to find faults in the treatment of the Palestinians and this kind of one-sided nature of the Israel-Palestine war. So I think it's surprising in this instance where there is clearly again a narrative that could plainly be laid out where Christians are, being the ones that are oppressed or being targeted for their beliefs. And the fact that mainstream media even refuses to cover a story where this narrative is kind of like writing itself is, I mean, it's definitely like very weird. And although I laid out my speculation against why I don't think this story was covered in mainstream news, I don't want this to be an issue that further divides conservatives and liberals. My main goal was to bring attention to an issue that I think liberals and conservatives can unite on, which is again the abuse of media and how it further exacerbates tensions based on what they are willing to show and sensationalize and what they're not willing to show at all for whatever reason, or what they want to put in front of us in order to make us resent our fellow Americans. And I think that's really important to acknowledge, is that the media has been the enemy for a long time of the people, because they're not willing to do their most basic and fundamental role, which is present news without political bias. And I also wanted to address the kind of mixed nature of this story, because you have the actual Nigerian government who are denying this story, or the conclusion of this story, which is that Christians are being persecuted. And they're saying that it isn't a fundamentally religious issue. The fact that, again, no one is investigating this story, to me, it presents more questions than answers. And I question the nature of why this story is not being covered to the same degree as other stories currently. And like I said earlier in the video, the only conclusion is that there are things that they want us to see in order to drive further division or to push their agendas. But again, if you have made it this far, thank you for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing, and take care and stay safe.